You're listening to Lyfe and Shyt. I'm Daneyel Walker.
And I'm Tommy Walker.
Join us as we talk about our journey overcoming fears, boundaries, marriage, family, lifestyle, business, and whatever other shit you can think of.
We're individuals that came together to create one unit with one mind and one goal.
Hey.
Let me get my mic over here. I forgot to put the mic in front of me.
Where you at, baby? Where you at? Oh, that's hilarious.
What's going on?
What's going on, baby?
Man, I was just looking at my app. I got charged for an app, and I was like, hey, I'm not supposed to get charged. That shit had me distracted.
Ain't that crazy though? It's like if you don't watch, then you know they can charge you for all kind of things, man.
Real
so
shit.
I said, if you don't look at your bill or look at your not even your bill, your statements, and your make sure you look at your shit.
You got to look at everything, shit. Your
Yeah.
financials. Look at your fucking checking account. I look at our checking account, including my own, every single day.
Yeah. Well, we have lots of different businesses and things and monies to check. So yes, have to.
Which talks about credit and shit.
Right. Which is a trip because who had better credit when we first got together, when we first met?
When we first met, we first got together.
It doesn't matter because our credit was the same.
No, when we first met, I had good credit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're right.
Immaculate
Okay.
credit.
That was years before we actually got together.
Yeah, exactly. When we got together, though. No.
That's funny. That's funny.
So to be more specific, when we got together, I thought I had better credit because I did. I had the greatest credit ever.
Because I did.
I thought I won. And then when we got together, I was like, girl, I got better credit than you do. And come to find out, well, I knew I was in debt. I had $60,000 in debt.
See, I didn't know that. So here's a side note, ladies. Have the credit talk before you get with them. Have the credit when you meet. Have that. No, not even then. Have it once you guys get together.
If you have good credit, have the credit talk. Don't be putting
no matter what, have that credit talk. Like hold up, because I thought I had the bad credit. Honestly, I was like, oh no, this guy, he's had cars, he's had this bad credit. He's had a house, he's had the bad credit. So me, I'm like, I bought my car cash, and everything was cash. I don't have anything, and the most credit that I'd ever had was like a credit card. It had $1,500 on it, and that was devastating to me. Like, I'll never be able to pay $1,500 off.
And to your point, you was right. Like so when you said, you was like, oh, I got bad credit, and I was like, I had a little inkling of what credit meant and how it worked. And then we ran your credit, and I was like, girl, you ain't got bad credit. You ain't got no credit. Like, and it was the same conversation I had with my father. So you were all about the cash. She was like, everything's paid in cash. I don't want credit. But then you had some little sticky stuff on there that was from your past, and that was on your credit report.
Yep.
But that wasn't because of poor financial management of credit cards or loans or anything like that. So you didn't have none of that.
No, I never had any loans.
I had all of that
Yes.
shit. I had a car. I couldn't pay for my car no more. I couldn't. It was credit cards I couldn't pay for. It was all cars, the car and credit cards that I couldn't pay, and that was because that was my transition out of the military. And during that transition out of the military, I was going through a divorce. I was homeless. I didn't have a job. So it was a lot of shit happening.
Yeah. And I didn't have a lot. I didn't have credit because I was just afraid. I was scared. I still remember I was catching the bus back and forth to work. I was working at the Marriott, and they had this, where they have those big car sales, and it's like a big old tent, and there's all kind of car sales that you could get any kind of car or whatever, and I went over there.
Do they still have those?
I don't know. I have no idea. But I went over there, and they're just like, if you work, then you can use your paycheck as a thing,
Yep.
And I didn't even have a license, to be honest. But when I did all the things that you had to do to apply, and at the end they said you are approved, right? And you only have to pay $250 a month. I don't know why that scared me to my soul.
You walked out?
I walked out. I didn't want that big responsibility.
That's a pretty good deal, actually.
And all I could think about is, what if I couldn't pay that $250? You know what I mean? Like, what are you guys going to do? Are you going to take my car? I don't know what was wrong with me then, but if you guys if this is your first episode listened to, that you're ever listening to, or if you've listened before, but if it's your first, then you don't know. But I had some issues growing up, you know, had some commitment issues as well, you know, and I didn't always know where my next meal or dollar was coming from, and even just having a great job and making money at that time was a little like fearful. If I didn't have two jobs, then I wasn't stable.
So how old were you?
Shoot, I think I was barely like 20, 21.
And you walked into the big tent.
Uh-huh.
And now for those that if the big tent's still happening, stay the fuck away from it. like because that's one of those catch-alls, right? Mm-hmm. So and it's funny how things change where things are not on your radar no more. Because I feel like every year it was the Big Tent, especially
true.
Here in San Diego. So
It's
in San
true.
Diego, you know, we have what used to be called Qualcomm Stadium. Now it's called Snapdragon Stadium.
Yep.
Where San Diego State actually plays now, and that used to be where the Big Tent sales were.
Yeah, that's true.
And then different malls would have Big Tent sales. Mm-hmm. So we haven't seen any of those, you know, Big Tent.
It's not on our RAS. Not on our RAS.
It's not on a RAS. Shout out to my dad for reticular activating system. Yep. So if you walk into a tent and they approve you for $250 and you walk away because you were scared, and you could have picked any car that was within that limit, and you were scared because of not the credit, but because of what happens if, you know, the control.
Yep. I didn't understand that my credit was good enough to give me that.
You know what? That is pretty fucking cool. Like, because I was in that motherfucker. I'd have been in there like, give me the Mercedes. They didn't look at me like, no, you can't afford it. It's $250. You need to go over there and pick the fucking Saturn.
It was a Honda of some sort. I don't know. I don't remember, but that's what I picked. I was like, I want this one.
That is funny. So today we talk about credit reports. Funny. And we're talking personal and business credit, because one thing about, you know, we tend to forget that anything that you do personally will affect you if you become an entrepreneur.
True.
If you want business credit. Now, unfortunately, we live in a country that will not give everybody the same opportunities, right? Because in our business journey, and if you've heard this before, you know, all of our companies were financed through us. No bank has given us any single loan, no startup money, no small business, like everything people talk about. And I like asking this question whenever new entrepreneurs come up and they say, hey, I got this idea. Can you help me, train me, motivate, you know, coaching, whatever the case may be. And the first question I always ask is, how are you financing this deal? And they say, oh, I'm going to go do this. And I say, so you haven't had those conversations yet? No, I haven't had those conversations yet. I don't want to burst your bubble, but honestly, if you don't have certain things lined up, these banks, especially these big banks, are not going to give you the credit to go out there and execute on that idea. So when it comes to business credit, your personal credit plays a role at some point, and then on top of that, depending on who you bank with, and we'll talk about that. I don't want to jump all the way to the end.
And what are some things that like affect your credit score? It's going to be your payment history, right? So do you pay things off, or do you let them kind of lag? You know, do you pay them on time, or
well, let's talk about that, because we had an episode where you pay everything half. So
it's called paying Peter to pay Paul, y'all.
no, robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Well, that's true.
You didn't pay Peter and pay Paul. You robbed Peter.
No, I paid half. That's what I'm saying. I paid half, so I paid Peter and Paul. I didn't rob nobody. They just didn't get it all. Nobody got it. I paid Peter, I paid Paul, but nobody got it all.
Everybody got a smidgen.
Everybody got something.
So we had an episode where Danielle used to pay half the bills.
Oh shit. That was just the way it was, you guys. I just didn't. Growing up, my mom didn't pay any of the bills, right? So there's times where there's times we had lights and things, but there's lots of times where we didn't. And I was like, I'm not going to be like that. So I would call and bargain up a storm. The people at Sprint knew me very well. And I'd be like, all right, check this out. I'm going to pay you guys this, and this. Legit. I would figure it out.
And it's like, okay. I had no idea. I was like, well, what the fuck you mean you only paying half the bill? But we're not going to relive that episode. But to your point, yes, what affects your credit is your payment history. What
your
else?
credit age, right?
Which is crazy.
How long have you had it, right?
Yeah.
And then new credit applications, which I never understood that. Like
The-
if you
the-
apply for a credit card,
inquiries.
then it hits your credit. Like, but I want to know if I can get credit or not. I don't know what you're talking. Like, I don't get that. And then your credit mix, which I don't understand what a credit mix is.
So it's where your credit is, right? So if you got a bunch of credit cards for stores, that doesn't show that you're financially responsible. So you got to have some legit credit, from, and honestly, if you have and we're not financial planners. Let me put that out there now. So
Not
we're
at
not
all.
financial planners.
Just giving you our
Yeah,
experiences.
this
That's
is
all.
our
That's all it's all
experience,
ever
right?
about.
So don't say that you heard this on Life and Shit. So if
You did hear it
so
on
now-
Life and Shit though.
Yeah. So now I'm telling you, if you have a credit for a store, get rid of that shit. Like you can't have Sears, J.C. Penney's, Macy credit cards and think that you're doing well with credit. No, that or fucking rent to own spots, like all that rent to centers, like all that stuff is meant to trap you. Like and unfortunately for our community, in the black community, the brown community, it's a continuous cycle of trap. So
Those are all the credit cards that I had when I thought that I had bad credit, right? I had those, and then the ones that you see on TV, and they're like, send us $99, and then you get this $500 credit. I was like, yes, please. Like, what is this credit? I didn't understand the value of buying things and paying it off quickly, but we'll get into that as well. But I wanted all the credit things that they could give me. But once we got together, Tommy was like, no, let's call everyone, or told me to call everyone. It's not like we did together, but I printed out my credit report and I called every single person who was on there, and I made a deal. Same way I did with the bills. I have no problem having any kind of conversation about money, especially my money.
let's
right?
make a deal.
Yeah. So I know I owe you, right? I know you want your money, and this is what we're going to do. So I did that with everybody, and then paid everything off or down, and even if it was $25 a month, I was told as long as it shows that you're paying something on that thing, that's all that matters.
It shows in a positive.
Yep.
Now, and it's cool that you said that, because that's how you fix credit, right? And you didn't have to pay anybody to do that. You
No.
did that on your own.
Yep.
Now, I'm not knocking any of the credit repair companies that's out there. I know a lot of people that's in that world, but you do not have to pay anybody to repair your credit. Now, if you're uber busy and you just got money to hire somebody else, 1,000%, I'm all about that.
And you got 1,000 things on your credit card or credit history.
Yeah, and you don't have time to work all that stuff out. Like, I don't have time to mow my lawn, so I hire somebody to do that. So if you're in the same boat for your credit, by all means, hire somebody that's reputable that could take care of your credit. But you can legit do all that shit on your own.
Yeah, true.
Or
very true.
you could just wait 7 to 10 years and it just disappears.
Why is 7 to 10 years the time, huh?
I don't know. It seems like America just like everything to, like, there's a cycle after 7 to 10 years. We just tend to forget about things.
It's the 7 years. It's like, okay, it's over.
Yeah. It's like, you know what? We ain't going to get you. It is what it is.
Oh, that's funny. Why is there 3 different credit agencies? Like, what is that all about? Like, and then how do you know which one matters? I know they're always like, oh, this one's better than this one, or like, what?
I actually never really researched that one. I don't understand why there's 3, and I'm glad it's 3, because if there was 4, then who would have the overarching, right? But in real estate, when you get qualified for a home, they take the middle score. So whoever's the highest, whoever's the lowest, they take the one in the middle. So that's why if there was 4, it would be awkward.
So the reason why there are 3 credit reporting agencies is mainly due to historical reasons of the market competition. Each of these agencies originally started as a regional credit bureau and later expanded their coverage to national level. Over time, these companies grew and developed their own unique methodologies for gathering and reporting credit information, which makes sense, right? So they gather that information differently, and people probably say, well, how do you gather it? And how do you gather it? So that makes sense too, that there's only 3, because if there's 4, then it's like we're all confused.
Facts. And in business credit, it's different, because in business credit, you have the credit reporting, and like everybody is familiar with Duns and Bradstreet. and when you get your Duns and
No,
Bradstreet
everybody's
number,
not familiar with Duns and
you're-
Bradstreet,
if
so
you're
you
in
can't say
business-
that. Yes, but if you're not in business,
No,
what is it?
No, if you're not in business,
Can't
if you're
say
in
that.
business, it's Duns and Bradstreet. And when you look at the one thing about Duns and Bradstreet is when you start your first business, you'll get these emails, and this is one thing I want to make sure everybody understands. Duns and Bradstreet will send you an email or a letter in the mail and say, hey, in order to make sure that you stay on top of your credit, pay X amount of dollars, and we'll send you whatever information. Something changes. There is no difference from what Duns and Bradstreet does for business credit to what Experian does for personal credit.
So they're like the credit bureaus for
Exactly, for
businesses,
business. Yeah.
but that's the only one.
So
That's what you're saying.
So there's others.
Okay.
But nobody
cares.
Like who gives? Like nobody gives a shit. Duns, because whenever somebody say what's your Duns, because there's a Duns number that comes with it, right? So it's like, oh, what's your Duns, and that's where your business credit lies, and they get you on because we got caught I was like, oh, I want to make sure I'm staying on top of it. I'll pay $700 for the year. Come to find out they didn't do shit for the whole year. And I was like, oh, again. You live and you learn.
Yes.
Right? Because there's no
So
school
true.
for this shit.
Yep. That is so real. What does it mean when they say things like no credit, on approved credit, good credit, bad credit?
I love those commercials. I love those commercials because they're so fucking annoying.
Cat Williams is the one that made me realize it. Like, wait a minute, it's like a trick.
I remember that episode. I remember watching that show where he was like, he's like, you could get financial something on approved credit, no credit, whatever.
Yep.
And I remember because my first car was at a place like that. I was 19 years old here in San Diego. I'm in the military. I walk into a car dealership, and they say all you got to do is bring in your paycheck from the military, and you'll walk out with a car.
Yep.
And I was like, hell yeah. And
Sounds
you know how
like
much
what
it
I
was?
did.
It was $350.
$150, $100 less.
$100 more.
I mean more.
So my interest rate was 18.9% on a Dodge Neon, a 1998 Dodge Neon. 18.9% on a Dodge Neon. And the price of the car was I remember it was $9,800. My monthly payment was $350. I paid that motherfucker every single month, but I was excited, right? And so going back to what you're saying on the age of your credit, right? So not only was I I didn't know, because of course in our culture we don't talk about credit like that, right?
I was gonna say,
we don't have those educational components about credit. So when I walked in, I was just excited to do it, and of course over time, I learned what credit was about. And then I was able to walk into a bank and I say, hey, I want to go buy a car. And they say, all right, here's a blank check. They gave me a blank check and just go, that's another bad thing. You don't give a 20-year-old. Now, I bought my first car at 19. My second car, I was 20. I'm 20 years old. You telling me I could go buy any car and now my interest rate is like 3-4%? Oh, hell no.
Oh Lord, you said hell yes though.
Yeah. Hell yes then. Hell no today.
Oh, that is too funny. Why is it important, do you think, to have, or can we tell everybody to have good credit? And then to piggyback on what you just said as well, like, why don't we have those conversations? I mean, I know we have those conversations with our children. They just didn't give no dams. And once they grew up, they were just like, I got good credit, so I get all this stuff. And then they had bad credit. But that's just not all of them, but just the one. Yeah. But why is it important to have good credit?
So the reason why we didn't have those conversations is because our parents didn't have credit. Yeah. Right? Our parents had layaway. They had Finger Hut. I like making fun of Finger Hut because they're still around and they should be out of business.
People still buy.
Yeah, and then remember when music started giving you credit, like where you could get like 12 CDs for 99 cents. But then
well, I did the books.
Yeah,
right?
so it was like
the books.
It was like all those things that targeted us, right? It was all these different marketing that targeted our culture. And so, therefore, we was never in position to really understand credit because we thought, I mean, I don't know what we thought, but honestly, it seemed like we felt like this shit was owed to us or we felt like it was a deal. So it's important to have good credit because housing, job, dreams, car, like all these different things are literally based off of your credit. I remember I couldn't get a job with the bank because of my credit. Like the bank was like, nah, fuck that. You got bad credit. I'm like, but that got nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to work hard.
Like I don't have to pay you, do I?
Yeah,
Like, right?
Like I ain't got bad credit with y'all. like my loans ain't got nothing to do with my credit cards. Ain't got nothing to do with you as a bank. But you looking at me like, fuck this dude.
Oh, that's funny.
So that's real shit.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's like when you think of some of the benefits from having good credit, it's like I would say living in an apartment that was like, nowadays apartments are crazy expensive. I don't even know what a reference, but that's $3,000 or versus if you had good credit, you could stay in another condo or whatever that was $6,000. But if you have bad credit, you probably have to stay in one that's 500.
Shit, if it was 500, it'd be 3,000, but still terrible.
Well, what I explain and try to tell our children is credit is your report card. It's your financial report card, basically, right? That's what your credit report is. Your credit, your report cards, it shows your different semesters throughout your life, and we can go back through, right, and see how you did throughout your whole entire life of grading, how good or how bad you did, and your credit report is the same exact thing. And when people look at that, then they know like either you're a good student or you're a bad student, right? And either you're a good steward over your money and over things that people allow you to have, or you're not a good steward over your money, and that's what your credit report reflects.
I remember when you got your first credit card.
Oh my gosh.
You ain't know how to act.
I did not know how to act because I didn't understand interest rates. I didn't understand.
Everybody was getting gifts.
Yeah.
I was like, babe, you went shopping again? Oh, such and such had a deal. So I understand. I remember I've had credit cards, but I remember when I got my first credit card that had a $10,000 limit. Mind blown. Mm-hmm. I was like, what? Now, the crazy thing about credit in loans and financing, when I was in school, my first day at Morgan State University, and the reason why I'm not in Morgan State, why I didn't graduate from Morgan State University, was because they said, oh, if your parents can't afford it, you could get these loans, and these loans will take care of everything, and then you just pay us back when you graduate. Mm-hmm. And I was like, to your point, hold up, what if I can't pay those loans? So at 17 years old, never having a conversation about loans or credit, then scared the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. But then when I got my first $10,000 credit card, thought I was balling out of control.
And you know why? I was just thinking about this while you were saying that. It was, yeah, you're right. With the car, I was like, oh shit, what if I don't have it? It's $250. That's huge, right? But if you give me $5,000, $6,000 and tell me I have to pay $25 back a month, I'm fine with that, right? I was like, oh, I'm going to max the hell out of this credit card. And I did, right? I was like, shit, well, babe, all I got to pay is $25 back. You're like, it doesn't work that way.
1,000%. You was paying $25.
That's what they
and
said.
It was staying the same.
Oh my goodness. It's such a trap. But I'm like, but that's what they told me, that I could pay the minimum and you can't.
And in business credit is the same exact way. So in business credit, you know, if you do happen to get a business credit card, pay it off. Mm-hmm. If you do get a line of credit, leverage that line of credit, use it wisely, and pay it back. Now, granted, here's a hack. If you fuck up your business credit, it doesn't hurt you personally. That's a hack. I don't want you taking advantage of that. It's not like, I don't want you to saying, yo, Tommy said that I don't have to pay this back. At the end of the day, like you said, you know, your credit is your financial report. It shows how you're going to do over time and how you just how smart you are with your money. But I don't want you taking advantage of these things. Now, to what I was saying earlier about big banks and getting that relationship as far as credit goes. If you're banking with Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, there's a good chance that they're not going to give you any money to start your business. Deal with relationship banks, small banks, local banks. Now, we just had a huge issue with local banks and them going under. You can't control that. But if you deal with a small bank and you build a relationship with the bankers in that small bank and they understand what you're going to do, you have a lot more leverage than going to these big banks. Like if you see Kevin Hart on a commercial selling you about a credit card, that's exactly what they're doing. They're selling you. I love Kevin Hart. I love everything that he's doing, but that's marketing. Like he get paid to do that. Don't fuck with Chase at that level. Like, yeah, drop some savings in Chase or whatever the fuck you know. We've been dealing with Chase for years, but we pulled all of our accounts from Chase. Every fucking checking account, savings account.
Name dropping, baby.
Well, because Chase, unfortunately, we've been with them for so long.
Years.
So long. Like even when I was with Washington Mutual and even as a veteran, it's like, oh, you're a veteran. We're going to take care of our veterans. And they try to put this ploy. It reminds me of McDonald's. They try and put this ploy towards the black community, right? And that's why they put Steph Curry, Serena Williams, Kevin Hart in front of us to make us feel like they're part of our community, but they're not a part of our community because you don't see a Chase Bank in the hood. If you go to any community, there's no Chase Bank in the hood. There's some random ass ATM machine that you're using your Chase Bank ATM card and you're getting charged $3.75 to pull your money out of Chase Bank, but you got to drive 25 minutes from your house to go to a Chase Bank. So this is what I'm saying. And if you look at a Bank of America, you look at Wells Fargo, none of them are in the hood. They're in communities that are
Affluent.
more some affluent, but even like some on the verge, like right in between. But they're not in the hood. You know what I mean? They're not in the places where it's easily convenient for everybody.
So how would one maintain good credit? One way I would say is to have a credit card. It's not bad to have a credit card. Perhaps not a store credit card, right? But a decent Visa, and to purchase something and then just to pay it like right off, right? So one thing is like I said, my stepfather taught me to pay things in cash, which is why I always did. And then one thing he was very proud of as well is that he paid everything off in cash, right? And I now know that it is better to buy it on credit and then pay it in cash. Just remember to pay that credit card off.
Literally the next day. Like you don't have to wait till the statement comes out.
Yeah, yep.
So if it was something like we just had a conversation with our producer and he paid everything in cash. So same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
If you have the cash to buy it on credit and then pay it the next day and you're golden. As soon as it hits your credit card, pay it. And then you don't get hit with the interest, but then you get the advantage of having credit. And that's the other part of it. There is some advantages to having credit if you use it wisely.
And like how do credit report or these credit bureaus and agencies, like how do they find our, like how do they get this information? You know what I mean? Like how do they gather and report the credit information?
So everybody who we borrow from reports to them. So if
they tell on us, y'all.
Exactly. So your car note, right? Like you have a car with your car loan is with Chase. My car is with Bank of America, and that's not by the choice that we chose. That was the choice of the dealership.
Yep. That's the only people that give us money, y'all. Yeah. The only people that give us the money.
No, that's who they do business with.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and that would give us the loan at the time. You know, they look everywhere. Like who's gonna give them money?
Yeah. True. So Chase says, hey, Daneyel Walker has paid her credit card her loan this month. Check. If Daneyel didn't pay her loan the next month, hit her ass. and then if you don't pay it, if you don't keep paying it, send the goddamn mob after her.
Yes, that's true.
And then try and ruin her life.
And then what happens if there's an error or if something is not right? You just got to call them and you got to complain and then listen, y'all, we all make mistakes. There's been times where I was a little late on my credit card payment and I was like, oh shit. And I paid it the next day and I called the credit company and said, listen, I slipped. Now you can't do this all the time. But you can call and say, hey, I slipped and, I didn't pay the bill and I'd like to get that fee or whatever taken off. So remember, you can call and get fees reversed as long as you have good intentions and it's not something you do all the time.
So, and one thing about having business credit too is you could actually come away from that. Like you could come out of that squeaky clean. You know what I mean? It's especially if you're smart with it. So take advantage, like use the system accordingly, right? And learn how to use the system. Don't go in saying, oh, I don't know how to do it, or, oh, I didn't know, because ignorance is not bliss.
Nope.
So make sure you understand it. And one thing Warren Buffett, says best, he said, don't save what's left after spending, spend what's left after saving, right? So yes, we're talking about credit, but saving is the biggest thing. So, because if you have cash, then you can leverage credit to get whatever it is that you need. And that's what it's all about. It's about leveraging this tool that was set up for us to get whatever it is that you need. But you got to have the discipline to be able to save cash.
I love it. My quote is, my value: if you don't take good care of your credit, then your credit won't take good care of you. And that's Tyler Gregory, and that's real. And that's basically all that we've been saying this whole entire time is like, hey, just make sure, just like your grades, like I mentioned in school, the way you get into a good college, the way you get into a good house or a great car is to have good credit, right? The way that you get into a good college is to have good grades. The way that you graduate to the next grade, the next level even, is to have good grades. The way that you graduate to the next level in financial world is to have good credit, right? And then my final thought is 420. I don't smoke pot, but I do. That's my credit score. That used to be my credit score. That's a quote.
I think you need to make that clear because I was confused. Is your credit score 420?
No, it's not, but it's a quote, and it's hilarious that I saw.
Okay.
Don't let 420 be your credit score. Make sure you work on your credit score. Make sure you take care of the things that you need to do so you can go to the next level.
1,000%. Your credit score is your personal or business vital gauge. So financial health deserves just as much attention and care as your regular health. So pay attention to what's happening out there. Pay attention, be on top of it, and be a good steward.
That's good, baby.
This is Life and Shit.
It's Life and
Shit. Do us a favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Leave a review. Let us know what your thoughts are. That's the only way that this show is going to be successful. And we appreciate you. Talk with you next time.